detail about what's happening, particularly in China. I just wanted to go over something that I felt wasn't asked, which is fiscal second quarter sales, $45 billion plus or minus 2%. $8 billion of lost revenue opportunity, specifically relating to China in H20. It seems as if you made up somewhere some demand for a different product or from a different geography or from a different corner of the market. What was that?
Well, we got a whole bunch of engines firing right now. The biggest one, of course, is the reasoning AI inference. The demand is just off the charts. You see the popularity of all these AI services now, ChatGPT, Gemini, so on and so forth, Grok. I mean, they're just doing incredibly well across the board. And all of the APIs that they serve out and all the agentic AI services that are built on top of them, they're all doing incredibly well. I think that there's just a giant breakthrough in AI's capability, and inferencing has just become a giant workload. Second, people realize that Blackwell is just a home run. NVLink 72 is a home run architecture. We designed it to be a thinking machine, a reasoning AI system. And I think people now, the confluence of the breakthrough in reasoning AI and the availability, now the emergence of Grace Blackwell NVLink 72, perfect timing. I think that's at the core, a big part of it. And the second part of it is that our supply chain is growing and we're really ramping it up and they're doing fantastically for us. And so all of these things are all coming together.
And so it is fair to say that some of that additional supply on Blackwell and the demand for Blackwell kind of made up for the opportunity lost in China, at least in the outlook for this current period?
Yeah, I guess so. But, you can't underestimate the importance of the China market. This is the second largest AI market. This is the home of the world's largest population of AI researchers. And we want all of the world's AI researchers and all of the world's developers to be building on American stacks. And so, irrespective of the near-term revenue success that we have, we can't ignore the fact that the Chinese market is very important.
You explained, again, in some detail, that at least in the Hopper architecture, you have engineered down to the lowest spec possible. It's not possible to do anything different with Hopper for the Chinese market. But in your consideration for a different architecture or a chip for the Chinese market, is that what we're talking about, a new design or new class? And have you made that proposal to the administration, just designing from the ground up a new chip?
We're still thinking through that. They're just the limitations are quite stringent, quite limited, if you will. H20 is as far down as we could take a Hopper. We don't know how to make it even less, and so that's really the limit. So there are main, the limitations are quite stringent. So we have to really think through it. Whatever we make ultimately has to add value to the market, and so it's a really tightrope because the Chinese competitors have evolved and advanced greatly over the last year. Like everybody else, they're doubling, quadrupling their capabilities every year, and the volume is increasing substantially. And remember, these are data center chips; they don't have to be small; they could be quite large. Without American technology, the availability of Chinese technology will fail the market. And so, whatever we offer has to at least be competitive and has to add value to the market.
Jensen, does Huawei have an AI accelerator or a GPU that is performant as H20 or is performant of other classes of GPU that you make?
Huawei's technology, based on our best understanding at the moment, and we have a lot of ground truth there, is probably comparable to an H200. And so they've been moving quite fast, and they've also offered this new system called Cloud Matrix that scales up to even a larger system than our latest generation Grace Blackwell. And so Huawei, as you know, is a formidable technology company, and they're not sitting still. And they look for ways to compete, and they're quite formidable.
with that in mind, you've kind of explained the landscape now, NVIDIA's ability to operate in China. And, I mean, you and I this year alone have already discussed the idea that there are 50% of the world's AI researchers in or from China. But are you having a sense of the vacuum created that those big names, I think about Tencent or Alibaba or Baidu that were buyers of H20, that they've already pivoted and turned to the offering from Huawei because of the policy that is in place?
Yeah, they have no choice but to, one of the challenges of the changing regulations is the ability for markets to trust the NVIDIA and ultimately American platforms. And so it's prudent, I think, for the Chinese customers to make sure that they develop their stack on Huawei, and because it's hard to rely on American technology at this point. And so that's one of the unfortunate parts of changing policies. But anyhow, I have every confidence that if able to compete, American companies will compete. This is, to write off American technology companies is not smart. This is the home of some of the brightest computer scientists in the world. American companies are incredibly competitive. We just have to have the confidence to go compete. And if we have the confidence to compete, we will win.
You said during the earnings call that you trust President Trump and that the president has a vision and a plan. Could I ask if you've talked to him about that plan and if it includes coordinating with NVIDIA on policy adjustment that relates to changes in technology export controls?
Well, obviously, I don't know all of his ideas, but let me tell you about two that are incredible. The first one is utterly visionary. The idea of tariffs being a pillar of a bold vision to reindustrialize, to onshore manufacturing, and motivate the world to invest in the United States, and is just an incredible vision. I think this is going to be a transformative idea for the next century for us. We're all in on the idea. We're setting up plants and encouraging our partners from around the world to invest in the United States, and we have a lot of stuff going on, and so I'm very excited about that. The second major idea is to rescind the AI diffusion rule, recognizing that this isn't about limiting American technology, but this is about accelerating American stacks around the world to make sure that before it's too late, that the world builds on American stacks during this extraordinary time, the AI era. And so these two initiatives are completely visionary, and it's going to be transformative for America.
Jensen, in the time that you and I have been on air having this conversation, some news has broken from U.S. Secretary of State Rubio, who has said that the U.S. will begin revoking some Chinese student visas. What I wanted to ask you is that with U.S. government limits on foreign student visas, how does that impact a company like NVIDIA? I think about the size, but also composition of your engineering talent here in California and elsewhere in the United States.
I believe the administration still feels very strongly about the incredible importance of immigration. Look, I'm an immigrant. I know many immigrants that came to the United States to build a great life, and many of us have contributed greatly to the technology industry and the United States. I believe that's going to have to continue. Remember, people from all over the world want to come to the United States. This is just such an extraordinary country with such incredible opportunities. We want the brightest to come here. We don't want others to. We don't want everybody to be able to come here. And there should be rules. But nonetheless, for the ones that really can make a contribution, want to make a difference, we want to make it possible for them to come here and bring their great ideas, bring their great intellect, and help us build a great America. And so I think the administration is all in on that, and I don't think anything that they've said changes that.
Jensen, I surveyed our Bloomberg Technology audience around the world for questions for you, and I think the most common question is understanding who NVIDIA's customers are away from the hyperscalers, but actually many questions about Elon Inc. and whether Tesla and xAI in aggregate might actually be one of the biggest customers you have. You think about not just the data center chips, but the chips specific for Optimus or in the cars, the Omniverse component. Could you speak a little about that?
We do a lot of business with Tesla and xAI. Elon's, as you know, is just an extraordinary engineer, and I love working with him. We've built some amazing computers together. We're going to build many more computers together, and the work that he's doing in Grok, his self-driving car, his Optimus. These are all, every single one of them, world-class. Every single one of them revolutionary. Every single one of them are going to be gigantic opportunities. And we're delighted, I'm delighted to be working with him on that. And so I think the Optimus opportunity is just right around the corner. It's very likely that humanoid robots are going to be robots that we can deploy into the world relatively easily. And this is the first robot that really has a chance to achieve the high volume and technology scale necessary to advance technology. And so I think this is likely to be the next multi-trillion-dollar industry. I'm very excited for him.
Jensen, let's end by talking about Europe. You alluded to a trip you're taking next week. It sounds as if the infrastructure build-out in Europe is coming. Where will you be visiting and who will you be speaking with?
Well, I'm going to leave the who as a surprise for all of you, but I'll be seeing lots of heads of states, and I'll be in France and UK and Germany and Belgium, and I think that it's very clear now that every country recognizes that artificial intelligence, like electricity, like internet, like communications, is part of a national infrastructure. No society could do without intelligence, as you know, and there's an awakening that every country has to take some initiative to ensure that their country and their society has access to artificial intelligence. And so we're really delighted to be able to work with work with the European countries to bring AI infrastructure to them and work with them to build AI factories. There's an umpteen number of AI factory projects in discussion and development, and so I'm really excited to make this trip. We're going to be all over Europe.
As we watch stocks hit session lows into the close ahead of a big earnings report by NVIDIA.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm just reading into something. It feels a little ominous as we get ready for NVIDIA earnings. You've got NVIDIA now down just a hair. That's the big one, but it is interesting to see some selling here into the close.
It's not the only company reporting after the bell. In just a couple of minutes, we expect to hear from Salesforce. We'll hear from Synopsys, HP Inc., C3AI, Elf Beauty, and others too.
Yeah, this feels like the last hurrah of this earnings season. Once NVIDIA is through, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, what's the next catalyst for this market that feels very much, even as it melts higher, range-bound?
Here, how about more restrictions from the Trump administration on different sectors? So the latest, according to the FT, is that the chip software designers need to stop China sales, and that obviously is why Synopsys is getting hit pretty hard. But again, we still have that tumult when it comes to headline risk.
Synopsys down about 10% right now. It is bouncing off the lows, but a huge drawdown here on that name. Cadence Design down 11, Keysight down about 2, and Ansys down about 5%. We should point out that when you take Synopsys, Cadence, and then the U.S. business of Siemens, that accounts for about 80% of the market here that Trump is said to be targeting based on that Financial Times story. Let's walk you through the closing bell numbers as we await these earnings reports, as we get the bells in New York. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down more than 200 points, or roughly about 0.6%. The S&P down about 30 points or so, or 0.5%. The NASDAQ Composite and NASDAQ 100 each going to end the day down roughly about 0.5 percentage point on the day, while the Russell 2000 lower by about 20-something points, or 1% on the day.
All right, quick headline crossing. Tesla said to target the robo-taxi launch in Austin on June 12th. So we know they sometimes put out targets. Sometimes they make it. Sometimes they don't. Back to the big market. Yeah. S&P 500, most names lower, remain 421 to the downside.
All right, let's take a quick look at the IMF. It's pretty straightforward. Red all around, all 11 sectors finishing in the red right now. The biggest decliners are utilities, materials, and energy stocks. Those are basically unchanged. Real estate investment trusts, communication services, and tech.
All right, to some of the individual gainers as we wait for earnings to cross among some companies, including NVIDIA. Hey, Abercrombie & Fitch, definitely a standout, 36%. At its intraday high, finishing the day with about a 15% gain. First quarter comp sales and adjusted EPS did top consensus estimates.
Hollister.
I know. Well, Tim's been shopping there. I don't know about you, but
I'm too old for Hollister.
No, I'm too old for Hollister.
No,
I
he
was
went to Park
told
Slope.
by
He
Mary
can no
Ross
longer
Gilbert
shop
this was a Gen Z. Hollister's Gen Z. So
Tim, you're among friends. You can share.
What else you got, Carol?
Joby Aviation. Check this out, guys. Up 29%. Toyota Motor investing $250 million in the company. It's about a $7 billion market cap. I didn't know if you knew that by now. Air taxi maker completing the first half of a previously announced $500 million commitment. So the move makes Toyota the largest shareholder in Joby. And then Vail Resorts. We broke down the earnings after the close yesterday, folks. Up almost 9%. Executive Chair Rob Katz is coming back to the company, to the CEO post, succeeding Kirsten Lynch, who has stepped down from the role. I mean, we talked about this. Tim knows this company. We talked about it yesterday. Investors took this as a big positive, as this guy is someone who has really kind of changed how you look at some of the ski slopes. And of course, the Epic Pass introducing that. So kind of changing it and maybe hoping to help juice the company going forward.
All right, some of the gainers as we do wait NVIDIA numbers. I got some of the decliners. I want to start with Okta reporting after the bell yesterday. Shares fell more than 16%.
Hey, I'm just going to interrupt this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Salesforce earnings crossing the wire right now. The company reporting first quarter adjusted operating income in line with estimates, about $3.17 billion. Sales overall, 2.13. The street on average was looking for 2.16. So a modest miss on the headline sales number. Revenue still was up about 7.6% in the period. Adjusted EPS, $2.58 a share. That is a modest beat. The street was looking for about, I'm not sure what the comparison is with the street, but it's reported $2.44 in the year ago period. Here's your forecast going forward. The company says that for the full year, it does see revenue of $41 to $41.3 billion. That's above its previous guidance of $40.5 to $40.9. So a modest bump up in its full year revenue forecast here. The company also saying that it sees no impact to its full year guidance with regards to that Informatica deal, which of course we reported a couple of days ago.
Yeah, shares to the upside right now by about 4%, bouncing around a little bit. Mark Benioff, chair and CEO, saying, quote, "We built a deeply unified enterprise AI platform with agents, data apps, and a metadata platform that's unmatched in the industry." Back to a couple more decliners as we do await to hear from more companies reporting results after the bell. Okta falling 16%. Stellantis also falling today, down 3%. The company did come out and name Antonio Filosa as its new CEO. Antonio Filosa, a company veteran with U.S. experience. The attempt here will be to reverse the company's slump in the U.S. market due to an aging lineup, model delays, and pricing blunders. Bernstein said that there was some disappointment, likely some disappointment, that the board did not choose an outsider, though Filosa is still seen as a, quote, safe pair of hands. And finally, GameStop falling by about 11% today. The company did announce that it bought more than 4,700 Bitcoin. It's the video game seller's first Bitcoin purchase after announcing in March that it plans to become a treasury reserve asset, a cryptocurrency treasury reserve asset, following the model set out by Michael Saylor over at the company formerly known as MicroStrategy.
Such a head scratcher. Real quick check-in on the bond market, guys. We saw selling pretty much across the curve, but pretty tame. The 5-year auction went down with not a lot of fanfare. So you see the long end, though, just up by about 3 basis points. Going back to Salesforce here, the company actually raising its full-year revenue guidance to the high end of $41.3 billion. The company originally saw $40.9 billion on the high end. They're also looking at a currency tailwind now, and they're taking a look at that guidance. And some interesting data when it comes to AI. They said that cloud data and AI annual recurring revenue is now over $1 billion, which is up more than 120% year on year.
And this gets to the idea, too. I mean, we were just talking on the close, guys, a little while ago with Paul Christopher at Wells Fargo about the investment opportunity. We heard this from Kara Murphy as well. The idea that some of these large cap tech names are, in their view, not just growth stocks, but to a certain degree defensive when they consider how much cash that they are able to throw off. And you see right now, CRM up about 5%, Scarlett.
All right, let's go in the opposite direction from tech to a consumer staple. Elf Beauty reporting results, and we're looking at a fourth quarter adjusted EPS of 78 cents, beating the consensus estimate by a nickel. As for revenue, $332 million, also higher than what was anticipated, which was about $327.4 million. In addition, Elf Beauty buying Rode in a $1 billion deal. It's a definitive pact to buy Rode, and we'll try to get you more details on this, but for now, making making a big M&A announcement in addition to beating estimates.
That's Hailey Bieber, right?
That's Hailey Bieber, and I think it had been
you.
being shopped around a little bit. So interesting to see that they picked it up, right? And this is what we see with the major makeup companies, right? Whether it's Estee Lauder, whether it's all the other ones that are out there, you know, they pick up these smaller brands.
All right, guys, take a look at Synopsys here. So obviously that stock got hit into earnings due to the FT report that President Trump is ordering U.S. chip software suppliers to stop selling to China. In the actual numbers, though, taking a look at its second quarter, adjusted earnings coming in better than estimated. Their revenue also up 10%. Their full year adjusted earnings is also increased on that high end. They still see their full year revenue a little bit higher than estimated. So they reaffirm their full year revenue guidance and they increase their full year earnings guidance, and they wound up beating on the second quarter. However, you see the stock now sort of flat pre-market, not doing that much, but recouping some of that drama that we saw into the close today.
All right, guys, we got a software, cybersecurity or security software company just reporting. We're talking about SentinelOne, and let's get right to the outlook. See second quarter revenue of $242 million. That's about $3 million light. The estimate on the street was $245 million. Also talking about fiscal year revenue forecast, $996 million to $1 billion. It had seen numbers above that of $1.01 billion. So again, that one was a bit of a miss. It also approved a $200 million share buyback program, but you can see investors not too impressed, folks. The stock is down 9% here in the aftermarket.
All right, let's talk life sciences. Agilent, of course, makes equipment for the biotech and life sciences industry, as well as a lot of the ingredients that go into pharmaceuticals. Net revenue coming in at a beat, $1.67 billion. The street was looking for $1.63. Adjusted EPS also beating $1.31. The street was looking for $1.27. Here's your guidance for the full year. The company says that full year adjusted EPS will be in the range of $5.54 a share to $5.61 a share. That's above the average of analyst estimates, which were looking for 5.55, and says that for the full year revenue will be in the range of $6.73 billion to $6.8 billion. That's a bump up from the previous guidance that it had given about a quarter ago.
Okay, speaking of life sciences, the cloud provider for life sciences, Viva Systems, up 10% in the after hours. The company boosted its fiscal year adjusted EPS forecast. First quarter adjusted gross margin coming in above estimates too at 79.2%. First quarter adjusted operating income coming above estimates at $350 billion. First quarter adjusted gross profit also beating expectations at $600.8 million. The company does see second quarter revenue coming in at between $766 million to $769 million, beating estimates of $750.8 million. Shares higher by about 11% as we speak.
All right, we are still awaiting those results out of NVIDIA, a closer look at what's going on in the AI space. Meanwhile, a smaller AI company, C3 AI, is out with its results. And the headline here is actually an expansion of a partnership that it's had with Baker Hughes. They're expanding that joint venture through June of 2028. The company also reporting earnings. It looks like they're beating on both the top and the bottom line. Those shares up about 15% in the after hours trade.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage, a lot of earnings, and we're still waiting on NVIDIA, which in the aftermarket is just up about 0.5%, but waiting for them to cross in about 10 minutes' time. That is a wrap. Radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We do it across the platform. I know, Alex, I think you're heading out. Scarlett and Romain, of course, continuing there on the TV side, and Tim and I are going to continue on the radio side as we wait for those NVIDIA earnings. Guys, we'll see you again. Same time.